It's 7 o'clock. We're going to get started. My name is Trina Johnson. I'm the president of the MAS. Only woman president for 52 years. No, just kidding. Okay. No, I'm Dave Faulkner. I'm the secretary. Trina can't be here tonight. John Zimmich, the vice president, is going to be running the meeting in a minute remotely from his cabin in Mongolia. So we have a slam-packed meeting tonight. It's really got a lot of good stuff going. I'm going to let John go ahead and take over, and then I'm kind of here as a emergency backup. But we also have the slide programs from Valts and from Ahmed on my computer, so we'll have to do a little shifting around and stuff. So with that, John, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it.
Okay, I got it. Thanks, Dave. And as Dave said, I'm John Zimmich, Vice President, and I'm filling in for Trina tonight. And we will be doing a little handoffs, but that'll be fine. We've done that before. And then with the final one to Valts for the main presentation. So welcome to the July 2024 meeting. Present in the room, I know, is Dave Faulkner. I am remote. Trina is studying for her keto certification, the next belt. So don't mess with Trina. Yes, in the room, I know. I heard Matt. I saw Ahmed. Is Jesse in the room? Or
yep, Jesse's in the room too.
Okay, well, welcome. That's our board members. I'd like to welcome, we have 13 new members, and welcome back of Femi. So are any of you in the room? Any new members? Or Femi, or are you online?
Now we got one new member in the room. All right.
Hey. All right, well, welcome aboard. And how about online? I'm not seeing anything here. I don't know, Matt, if you are. Well, welcome to the new members. You can see down there on the right the breakdown of our membership. And we have a number of the presentations are directed toward new members, and that we give them recurring every month. And so just pay attention and see what the membership actually gets you. And for what we have between now and the next meeting, we have a number of occultations or near and of planets and stars with the moon and each other. And we have our first quarter moon is coming up just a couple days. And the nights are getting longer over the past couple of weeks, so hooray for that. Mercury at greatest elongation, July 22nd. We have a couple of meteor showers thrown in there. And we have the Delta Aquarids on the 27th, and then a really nice occultation of the moon, just 0.1 degrees from the Pleiades. That's a nice morning occultation at the end of July. And then August 1st, our next meeting.
Hey, John, on the 24th there, got Saturn 0.4 degrees south of the moon occultation. Is that here, do you know, or is that?
That one, I don't, I thought of the same thing, and I didn't have a chance to check that. When Trina sent me the deck, I didn't notice that one right away. I don't know.
Anybody know in the room? Nope.
That'd be a nice one, though.
Suresh is checking for us. We'll get a readout here in a little bit.
Okay. I'll just move on pending that. And is Antone in the room?
He is in the room.
Okay, Antone, would you like to talk about Loner Scope program? This is for any of the new members. This is one of those critical pieces.
It's the usual talk. Yes, we have our loaner scopes. We have 19 instruments all together, and members can borrow those. There's a link right on the home page that will take you to a list of all the telescopes that we have. You can pick which one you like, and then there's a form to fill out. That form comes to me, and then I'll make arrangements with you to come and pick up that telescope. So far this year, we've had 45 loans. I have 2 more about to go out. So I think of our 19 telescopes, there are 12 in circulation right now. So I have a few things that are available. Both our binoculars are available. And I think I have 2 Schmidt Cassegrains or 2 8-inches and 6-inch available. And I think that's mostly what we have immediately. Anyway, do we have new equipment? Well, I guess the last thing we got was a pair of binoculars at the end of last year, and that's on one of those counterweight mounts. Mounts. I've not heard of any new acquisitions. Okay. Anyway, we also have these DVDs, and I've had a couple of those go out this year. They are subjects, well, all things astronomy. Anything you want to know about astronomy, we have a DVD short course. And and on our Loanoscope page, you can also request one of those. And all our loans are for a month, and with the possibility of 1 additional month if there's no other demand for that telescope. So, are there questions for me about our loaner program? Okay, thank you.
We have late breaking news here. The Saturday occultation will not be visible from the United States.
So in classic Dave fashion, not here.
Right, exactly.
So it'll be kind of close. But thanks, Antone. Then just for upcoming star parties, we have ELO dates and the BSIGs. Is there anyone from ELO or BSIGs who'd like to speak to any of these events? Okay. Then,
Well, so I tell you what, I'll speak on behalf of ELO. So Camping with the Stars is coming up here this weekend. Starts on Friday night, goes all day Saturday, and then Sunday morning. I'm assuming that we can always use volunteers to come out and help out. We got a number of good speakers out there, including myself. Anyway, so we encourage you to come out and enjoy it and help us out a little bit. It usually draws a pretty good crowd, especially on Saturday. And we'll have of course, the 2 drawings, the door prize and the raffle drawing. So, and there's also the picnic on Saturday night, right? So, encourage people to come out. It's one of the big events that we have, and out at ELO. And it's not supposed to rain. That's right. Well, I think Saturday morning is supposed to rain a little bit, but who cares about that? That's right. During the day.
okay. Well, thanks, Dave. And then JJC and CGO are open. LLC is also this coming weekend.
Hang on a second. Trish, did you want to say anything about the BSIG or not?
That's right.
Okay. So the BSIG information is correct. He just said, come on out. Always glad to have members out there to share their knowledge of the sky and telescopes. One of the things that the BSIG does is introduce new people to different types of telescopes. So we're always glad to have people out there. Okay, go ahead, John, take it.
Okay, then key holder training. That's the next step. Dates are up here. The only one, CGO you can see is also in combination with the Mini Messier Marathon. And LLC, as usual, it's in conjunction with the NNSF Star Party. So, any questions about those dates? Or anybody want to speak up about anything?
Well, I just keep an eye on the forums for these. They always want to know about how many people are going to show up. I know the ELO is limiting their size a little bit to make sure that they don't have too many people there for the training. So they can register through the website for the ELO training. CGO, you can just let them know that you're interested in doing the training down there too. And JJC, Valts, or no, who's Clayton? Clayton? Yeah. So do you want just to have them monitor the forums on that one? And okay. So just sign up on the forums for JJC as well.
Okay, thanks again, Dave.
Sure.
Then for our public servants announcements, Anton will be, or not Anton, Ahmed will be speaking a little bit later with the next month's astronomy astrophotography. And Valts, I guess I can hand it over to you if you're there. Trina told me you have some prizes to give out. Is that correct?
Prizes, is anyone here that does not receive their prize?
I don't know. Hey, the question is anybody here who has not received their prize?
Okay. If not, I'll just go through the list here. Recognize people.
Sure, let's do that.
Okay, it looks like the Virgo. We had our Virgo venture. That was what about a month ago?
Yeah, about a month ago. Yeah.
Yep. And so we have the beginner award. Mark Strom found 17 objects. And for those of you who don't know what the Virgo Adventure is, it's the galaxy cluster in Virgo, kind of between Virgo and Leo, goes up into Coma Berenices, and number of galaxies to find. And I know that we've had a number of things, drowned out by the galaxies, drowned out by northern lights. So, but I don't think this one was. And Mark found 17 for the advanced awards. Don Gazik found 25. He was awarded a t-shirt. Dave, congratulations.
Yeah,
For,
I
for
found
10 objects. And Claire got 5. And then thanks to all the participating members who were out there working on that or other projects. I guess it was a pretty successful event out there.
Yeah, it was really pretty good. The night was pretty good. It's just there's just so many darn galaxies to find your way around. And so
But if you're ever interested in doing that, there are it's actually kind of fun. There's star maps that use a lot of the star hopping, and you could just go hop from one galaxy to another. It's a lot of the fainter ones can be a bit of a challenge, though.
yeah. And before you go away from that, astrophotography, Ahmed. So we've got that next month. People send in their. Okay, so he's going to talk about that when he shows the. He's got some slides to show. So
Correct.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, so on to member minutia. I guess we'll turn things over to Clayton, and then we'll just run things over to Ahmed after that.
Hello. My name is Clayton Lindsay. I am the committee chair for JJ Casby, and the board had asked us, the site managers, to give a little presentation at the general meeting, just an update of what's going on at the site. So I'm going to cover JJ Casby in the Metcalf field. If you guys are not familiar with JJ Casby, it is on the east side over in Afton. On the Bellwin properties, is primarily used. I would say the most usage comes from the St. Paul School District during the winter, where they bring kids out to enjoy nature, learn about nature, and then they do solar observations when it's clear. It is also open for key holders to use, and there's a reservation system on the forum like the other sites to do. So go ahead and pop over. Next slide, or roll up to the slide. It's a PDF, so you just slide to the upwards. So this is the report that I give to the board, showing the budget items that we have had for 2024 on the left, and the only thing that we've really spent so far is the Metcalf electrical outlets, and that's one of the expenditures you saw earlier from the treasurer. We also have upcoming events already been mentioned. We have a training July 20th. If you're interested in that, go to the forum so you can sign up. We also, you can be retrained if you like, come back out, have a refresher course if you want. We're open to that too. Currently we have one person signed up. I'll probably be doing the training. It usually starts at 12. I'll post on the the website. If it's extremely bad weather, we will cancel. But if it's just sprinkling, we'll be okay. We won't open the dome, but we'll go through the process. The other part, this lets you know there is a Bellwin Music in the Trees and Bellwin Night in Nature, which are open to the public, I believe, or at least Bellwin members. You can find that on the Bellwin's website if you're interested in doing one of those activities. And we do have volunteers to do that. So in the bottom left-hand corner, I don't know if you can zoom in on that. This is the usage of Bellwin based from the membership. That's okay, you can't see it. Basically what it's working out to be is we do 5 members reserve the facility for their use about 5 nights a month. And if you look at it from a 30-day perspective, that's only about 16% of all nights. But if you look at it from a no moon, you're probably looking at like 25% usage. Again, we have not a huge group of people that are using it. We have about 100 key holders, but we probably only a handful, maybe 10 or so people that go out there on a regular basis. But it is a really nice facility for those of us on the east side. The location is about a Bortle 5. So it is a very large refractor. It's the largest refractor that the MAS has and one of the larger ones in Minnesota. It is an excellent instrument for lunar, planets, binaries, things like that. Where it's located, you're not going to see a lot of deep sky objects. However, on good nights, it does pretty well with like the Ring Nebula, things like that, some of the brighter things. So, but things with low surface brightness, you might want to head to a darker site. But from a standpoint of contrast, high magnification, it's a great instrument. Next slide. Slide on down. Yep. Just so if you haven't seen the inside of JJ Casby before, this is a shot of someone observing a few years ago. It hasn't really changed in many years. Next slide. I was out today just because I was going to give this update. I didn't want to give inaccurate information. I just want to check on the maintenance. So just to let you know, the inside's looking good. It's up, up to what we want. The outside, it's the time of year when weeds grow. So we have a few weeds growing on the outside. Key holders are welcome to pull the weeds. You can't spray anything out there. It's Bellwin property. They don't want any pest, herbicides, things like that. But what we do, we'll probably schedule a work day when it gets a little cooler, or if you just are up there and we do that, we might do that. Also, there are pads up there if you want to take your own instrument up and set your own telescope up outside. So, it can accommodate 5, 6 people very easily up there if you want to have a small star party for members that are key holders. And you could take guests. If you're a key holder, you can take a guest who's not a key holder. So I don't know if you can see it, but the middle photo, the building has like a spray marks on it. Not sure what that is, but the building itself is pretty dusty. It never been washed down as far as I know. So that'll probably be something we'll add to the maintenance year if we can get some water out there and get a hose out that far. We don't want to spray, we don't want to pressure wash the paint off, but that's hardy board, but it has a little bit of paint and caulk on it. But we'll probably try to get that off at some point this year. So, it doesn't say wash. The only thing I could think of is maybe somebody with a water bottle was there and just throwing water on a wall. I don't know. But it kind of looks like it looks like just watermarks and dirt because it's so dirty on the side. So next slide, please. Metcalf Field, if you haven't been there, Metcalf, Suresh is the expert on Metcalf Field. He's our representative on the committee for Metcalf. But I did want to show a photo of Metcalf. They have been taking really nice care of the field. They're keeping the grass cut. I know that on the south side where that fence is, those are wild grapes along the fence back there. So they did clean that fence up. They left the grapes, but they cleaned all the weeds and saplings of buckthorn and stuff out away from that fence. And I'm gonna mention the new power pole. After 5 years of asking for it, we do have the new power pole installed. But I was going to mention that if we get up the interest, I spoke with Belwin and they're okay with us cleaning up some more of the brush along the sides if we decide we want to go out there and do that, but that would be on us to do. They may get to it, but they have, several thousand acres of land to take care of. They may not be able to do it, but we'll decide that later. If that becomes an issue, we may do something. So next photo. The other part of Belwin, this was much earlier during the install. So we do have another 20 amp circuit on the north side of the field that goes along with two 20 amp circuits near the porta potty out there. So the porta potty is being serviced monthly. So it's usually in pretty good shape. The grass is growing around the new post. And I think, Suresh, you guys have already used it at least once. So everything seems to be working. We did have some problems with the other breakers tripping. The electrician didn't find anything particularly wrong with it. We have not seen that problem again this year, but maybe we will as more usage comes. So next slide was just a question slide. So this concludes my brief report about JJ Casby and Metcalf. Again, my name is Clayton Lindsay. That is my email address. If you guys want to send me an email or have questions, and I'll take any questions here if anybody has something brief that they want to ask. Okay.
Clayton, I did see one question flash by online. I don't know if it was before you made the comment or not regarding the key holders bringing guests to Bellwin. Just confirm that one.
Yes, you're allowed to. Yeah, you're allowed to bring a guest, even a non-member. We just try to keep the size of the total group to be small. We do encourage all the key holders, if they want to do some outreach with a small group, to take up there. Just let us know and also record it. Make sure that the outreach is recorded through the website to fill out that form if you're doing that. But if you have your family in, you want to take them up, that's perfectly okay. Just needs to be a key holder there representing those members, those guests. And you need to be sure to follow the Bellwin rules, right? You can't, it's pretty much you can only go to the observatory. You can't walk the paths, that type of thing. Okay. Any other questions? How many people, I have one question. How many people here are key holders in JJ Casby in the room here? All right. So we don't have a lot of usage of JJ Casby. Any ideas of what would make it more useful for you guys or encourage it? Yeah, really for a client. It's like a very, it's got a narrow focus for most amateurs. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'll turn this over.
Okay, I think that, okay, so you should be able to share, right?
Oh, wait, can I get the mic?
So share.
Yeah, so minimize that first. And then go down here. That's share right here, right? And then screen two.
Screen two.
Yep. And then start your presentation. And when you start your presentation, it should show over here. The slideshow. And then from current slide. I think I go here to the second one. Current slide. There you go. There you go. Okay. Okay, he's showing it here. We're not seeing it there. We did that.
We did.
The presentation.
Mhm.
Who's hosting the slideshow tonight? Is it John?
Yeah.
Oh, can you get on the mic and tell John you need to start resharing?
John, can you start resharing, please?
Okay.
That's you.
From current slide.
I'll go down to where we are.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wow, back on.
You want me to do the stop sharing now from here, or
No, hang on a second. There's something.
Do you have more slides, John, or is that it?
nope? I have more slides.
Why don't you finish your slides? We'll do the eclipse and then Valts. This way
Oh.
you can hand over control to us and after you're done.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's.
Okay, the next I have Astronomical League awards. We currently have, Jerry didn't report anybody getting an award, and for any of you who are not aware or new members who don't know about the Astronomical League awards, as MAS members, we are part of the Astronomical League, and as members, we're eligible to work on projects with the Astronomical League, and we can get awards. We get bling, we get things you can hang on your wall, plaques, and we can also get pins. And the pins are the really coveted items. And when you complete the projects, and there's both for visual and imaging. So here's just an example of, that's the Messier pin over there in the blue on the left. Just a sample of some of the programs in alphabetical order starting from A. And they're broken down in this list by beginner, intermediate, or advanced. You can see there's unaided binocular, telescope, special types of awards. And so if there's something out there, I promise for anybody, if you're just starting out, whether you have a telescope or not, and you can start working on these. Awards this month. Well, it could be you if you completed one. And as Jerry would say, get out there and observe. Are there any questions on AL programs? Okay.
None in the room. We're good.
All right. Then we have Chris Bethia. Is she in the room by chance? Or online?
I do not see Chris in the room.
Okay. She just, she is handling a lot of our social sites and activities. And one thing she's looking for is Facebook posts to post on our Minnesota Astronomical Society Facebook page. And so if you have any photos, she's looking for them, and just something with an activity associated with the MAS. If you'd like to send that to her, then she'll create the post and put it out there.
Hang on a second. Yeah, Ahmed wants to say something here.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, John, but don't email Chris at this email. This is the wrong address. We'll post the right one on the forum and on Slack.
Thank you.
Also, if you're sending in an image, highly recommended to do a watermark copyright of your image when you send it to her.
Yep. No, I thank you, Dave, for bringing that up. And the other thing is, by sharing that image, you're giving the club the rights to actually share that image out there. We don't intend to make money off of it or anything, but we have sharing rights in this case.
Correct. It's just to keep other people from sharing it without giving you credit. So
Correct. Okay. And next, Gemini articles. And Father Brown is always looking. So every month we have pretty much the same announcement. So if you have anything you'd like to present out there about your experiences, just about anything, just email gemini@minastro.org. The next deadline is July 10th, which I guess we just passed, for the August. And then the next deadline will be September 10th for the October.
yeah, and it's fine because a lot of times he'll have more articles than he can publish anyway. So he'll hold them over for a later issue. A lot of you had some interesting trips as part of the Total Eclipse in April, and so if you want to write a little article about your experience on going on the trip, I think that he would really enjoy being able to publish that for you. So, yeah.
I would also suggest too, for reminding me, Dave, that any Aurora experiences there's been a few of those as well. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great subject matter. Next is the happenings. That's published. I don't know, Dave, since you have a mic, you want to talk about this one? This is yours.
Yeah. So the happenings is, well, it's published every week if there's something happening that week. Okay. Most of the time there is. And so the idea is to kind of give a heads up of events that are happening that are MAS associated. Or I also put in like a link to the latest Gemini or to the Reflector magazine or whatever. So, but it comes out weekly, Tuesdays, about 11:45 a.m. is when I usually time it to go out. And if you have anything for the happenings that you want to have in there, remember it's really structured around announcing some event or activity coming up. So and it's not just a general announcement type of thing. That's what the forums are for. And so I'd like to receive it by Thursday, so it gives me time to put together the happenings for the following week. But like I said, if there's nothing happening that week, then it won't be published. But I think I've had maybe 3 weeks since I've been secretary that I haven't had anything to publish. So okay.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave.
Yep.
And our next meeting is August 1st, and that one, those sneak up on me when it's the first couple days of a month. So just make sure you mark that calendar. Remember, August 1st is our next meeting, and in person right there at I'll just say the Education Center. I haven't studied like Trina to say that, but and it's starting at 7 p.m. same time. And I think that my next slide, I think, is going to be Valts' presentation. So are you guys ready for the eclipse presentation yet?
Yeah, we can do that. Let's see if we can get this working now. Does he have to do anything at his end?
Able to share.
Okay. Now, so if you should be able to go to slideshow. Let's see.
John, do you have to
And
stop
I'll
sharing?
stop. I just stopped.
Okay. So now screen 2. Oh, you're getting there. Okay, now just start your presentation. It should just come right up. There it is. Perfect. Woohoo! Technology.
There we go.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Dave, for helping me with this. So yeah, last month we couldn't finish all our pictures, so now we're going to continue. So onward, now we move with Mark Strom. Is Mark in the room?
Not here.
Okay. Well, Mark has some amazing pictures of the eclipse.
That diamond ring, nice.
And then Alan.
Alan in the room. Oh,
Alan online.
okay.
Okay. Also a really nice picture. And a picture of totality.
Nice prominence there. Oh, yeah, a couple of them. Nice.
One more. And then John's image.
Who's he?
I don't know.
I'm not in the room.
Not in the room. Let's keep moving. Okay. The really good picture. So let's keep moving to the next one. Go ahead, John.
So what is this?
Okay, actually, this is a video, just a little short 30-second video that I did. I took a picture with my setup I'm shooting at about 135 millimeter, and to get the star fields. And then I superimposed from Sky Tools the map over it. And you can see a number of the stars that show up. The Cancer, let's see. You can see the star to the right of the sun, and then Zeta Canceri is just barely, it's in the light there. But I did that overlay just so to help to see if you can pick out the stars. I don't know how well it shows up on the screen.
Yeah, we can see a couple of stars.
Okay, but that's why I did that, was just to show that was my star field. So of course the eclipse, the inner corona is way overexposed, but you can see the edges as far as how far out the corona goes.
Yeah, I can see at least 3 stars. So
Yeah, you could see a lot more if you're on the computer screen, of course.
yeah,
but-
I bet, yeah.
And you have to, it kind of helps to have this sort of flash screen alternating back and forth. You can pick out a lot. But that was just a little exercise I did. And this one here, I did, this was shot with my 70 to 200 millimeter with an XTI that was mounted on top of my C8. And I was shooting at 135 millimeter, which is the equivalent of about 200 because of the smaller chip size. And then I stacked 39 images. I did a bracket exposure, and so I ended up with about a half dozen sets, and I stacked those to get the corona. And I found an article in 2020, Sky and Telescope, the guy saying how to do that and get the little swirls from the magnetic field visible in the corona. And then I just overlaid one of the moon images that just barely kind of, you could see the surface detail.
Cool.
That's that's another one, but that one wasn't showing as much of, using compression. I used Photoshop in the other one to compress the image when I stacked it. This one I didn't compress. And so that's the difference.
And John, this is the one you told me that's showing the earth shine.
And that one has, yeah, that one there, you can see that more of the earth shine on the moon.
Probably better on the computer than it is here, but yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty visible on the computer. Maybe we should just dim the front.
that's fine.
Yeah, here's a zoom in.
Yep, and now this is through my C8, and this is would be shot at f6.3. I had a focal reducer on there, and this again is a stack of 111 photos that I was shooting between. I did bracketed exposures, one stop between 1/60th and 1 second. So, and then I stacked those sets using that technique from the Sky and Telescope to get the little swirls.
Yeah, that's cool.
That one there, that one shows the earth shine again a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I got that prominence down there on the bottom. This one was actually shot by my niece. We had 4 people kind of following us around, and they walked down by this pond, and my niece was down there, and she shot that one just with her phone. And I asked about it looked like, some effect that she added to it, and she said no. She said, I didn't do anything. I just took the picture. And I think this was right about at the diamond ring at the end. And I don't know if anyone has ever seen this happen before, where you end up getting that curve. But I thought that was a really neat effect. But
Were you in Indiana? Because we had a contrail go through ours.
okay, no, that wasn't the contrail. That's what I thought. And we did have contrail go through, but that had already gone past there. And we were in Jackson, Missouri. And yeah, that was not the contrail. Because in fact, she took another picture just a second before, and there that thing isn't there.
There was a comment that a dirty camera lens will do that.
Okay. That could be. I don't know, but it's a neat effect. Yeah, see, and there's the one that's right before, and then you can see Venus just to the lower right.
That's APOD worthy, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. That one just blew me away. And this one here, this is a video of the eclipse. I set up my iPhone on a tripod behind me there, And so this gives you an idea of the eclipse. I don't know if the audio comes through or not, but
No, it's not coming through.
okay. But the couple of young people off to the right, there was that family of 4. Those are the people who were in that other picture because they went down below right at the end, but they were very interested in what they're looking at. I'm using, you can see my setup there. I'm using Eclipse Orchestrator, 2 laptops, one running my C8 with my 6D, and the other one is running my XTI with the 70-200. And they're looking at the countdown clock on my laptop to see when totality is going to begin. So you can see they kind of get excited, run over there and look, and I'm preparing now to remove the filters. And what's interesting, if you watch my cameras in this picture as well, you'll start seeing how the cameras will start shooting. Because I had all the program, all the exposures, the bracketing all programmed into Eclipse Orchestrator. So I don't really have to do much, as far as controlling a camera. I just make sure the scope is aimed. It's an old mount, so the tracking, and plus, I didn't get out there the night before and get everything aligned. So my alignment was actually pretty good, but the drives wobble a little bit in that old C8. Okay, here we are. Filters off. And you can just see the back of my cameras as they take pictures.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be flashing away like crazy, and I'm just standing there looking at the Eclipse. Eclipse Orchestrator is beautiful. And you really have to work with it. You have to practice a lot. And I used it in 2017, and I used it kind of as brushing the cobwebs off for the annular last October. And did a beautiful job, though. And one thing a video does, I find out I run around a lot during an eclipse. I must have ran about a quarter mile.
Where were you, John?
Jackson, Missouri.
Jackson, Missouri.
In fact, Suresh is about 8 feet behind this camera.
And John, here I come forward. I'm the telescope right behind John.
Oh yeah, there. Yep,
Yeah, my
there's
kids were
Ahmed
coming
there.
in and out. One of them kept putting his glasses and looking away from the sun. I'm like, okay. Wrong direction. Yeah, Phil was to my left. Yeah.
Yep, you got the big donut in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's that contrail coming through. And you can see Venus down there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's my sun kind of off to the left.
One thing I remember that day, John, is between, when it started approaching totality until it actually hit totality, temperature dropped significantly, where before that it was like super warm. And then after that, it sort of got chilly and everybody was putting on their sweaters, including myself.
Yeah, I think it was at least a 10-degree temperature drop. I think it got down to about 64 or something like that.
No, it was a good trip.
But yeah, you can see it from the pictures that you saw, and you look at the sky, there's that high cirrus deck. So eclipses aren't greatly impacted by that. I imagine there's a little bit. You can watch that family now. They're moving down by the pond, so my niece can take a picture of them down there. I thought it was hilarious when the mom came back up and was showing off that picture, and she said, this girl down there, really nice lady, she just gave this to me, this picture, and of our family. And I said, oh, that's really neat. So my niece came up and was talking to my son, and I said, hey, you guys need to see this picture. And she said, yeah, I know, it's mine. So, there we go, filters on.
So John, how many were we out there? I forgot the number. We were a
We
lot.
had about 50.
No,
There
but I
was
mean,
about 100. I think there was close to 100 people at the site.
but the group from Minnesota that came down there.
Yeah, that was about
55
50
of
of
them.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had about half the people that were there. That was a great venue.
Yeah.
Not well advertised. Suresh found that thing. Good grief! That I can't believe he found that group. That Knights of Columbus were hosting this, and I was thinking about it. There were only about 10 of them there, and I'm thinking they probably didn't want to advertise it because they could have got killed with the number of 1,000 people or something. But there's my rig. That's the trusty C8 with my then my 70 to 200 on top. And that's why I just wanted to conclude with a tribute to my old friend, because I bought that C8 back in 1978 specifically for the eclipse, February 1979. So you can see, here's my picture. That was shot at f10 with Ektachrome 200. And that picture on the upper left, that's just north of Winnipeg, Canada. We're alongside a road, and there it is, right in front of my van. I just have it hooked up there, photographing the eclipse. And then, so I shot 1979 and then 2017. That's one of the pictures I took with that. And then last October, and then 2024. I don't know if it's going to see another one, because I may see another eclipse, but I'll travel. I don't think that thing will travel really well. I don't know if I want to pack that thing up and travel it, but so I don't know if it'll make it another 20 years or if I will. But yep, that's my old friend and I had an article I published that was published in the April Gemini, and I referenced this telescope. So I think that's it, isn't it, Ahmed?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
So the next set of pictures, Bill Glass sent them to me, and I'll go through high level, certain highlights he wanted me to go over. And Bill, in advance, I know you're not here, but I apologize if I butcher anything in advance. So as a lot of you know, Bill is a regular member of the club, and one of his hobbies is to go out and observe eclipses. And this eclipse specifically for him is a special one. And the reason for that is the reason for that is a lot of you have heard of a Saros, which is 223 synodic months or lunar months. And every 3 Saroses, I'm not going to pronounce that word legimus. I don't know if anybody knows how to pronounce that. Anybody here? Okay. Or anybody online? Yeah. Okay. So every time you have 3 cycles of a Saros, you pretty much can predict the eclipse where it's going to be, and you can predict successive eclipses from the properties of the eclipse and the location. And what you can see up here in the upper right is the eclipse that Bill got to observe. He had the number of years here. So it was pretty much 3 cycles ago, March 7th, 1970. And then so 3 cycles after that, he got to observe the eclipse that we got to observe this year in April. So this is pretty much Bill's setup. And then this is the area that was set up for people. He went to Vincennes, Indiana, which is in the southern half of the state. And then here are his eclipse pictures. Don't know. That'd be a question for him.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
The question was, how many eclipses have Bill been to? And it's a lot. We're talking probably in excess of 25, don't you think? Yeah, around the world.
I think he has logged almost an hour's worth of totality.
There you go.
That's a lot. Okay, the next set of pictures is Don. Don, want to come over here? Or I can bring you the.
Wondering, I should have told you what it kind of entails. Oh, I did this video. I did it. I took pictures every 4 minutes during the eclipse, and then when it got close to Bailey's beads, then I just switched to a video. So then all of a sudden it took a little while. It'll take a little longer to conclude there. So now it's in the video mode, and yeah, the Bailey beads are starting to come out or show. Then, so this is this is just video of it, and of course, because of that, it just kind of washed out because I wasn't taking individual pictures like a lot of people. So I just took video all the way through the eclipse, and I was in Benton, Arkansas, and so it was just a duration of 2.5 minutes about what we had in Wyoming in 2017. And then after I got some diamond ring at the end here. And then after the Bailey beads, I just switched back over to individual pictures and took a picture every 4 minutes until it was over.
Don, where did you end up going?
Excuse me?
Where did you end up going?
Where'd I end up?
Yeah.
Did I say Benton, Arkansas?
Okay.
It's just a little bit south of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
And of course, I have a cousin there, and I'd made arrangements with 6 months ago to visit her. And then, of course, it was going to be cloudy, and I thought, oh gosh, I've got to see her anyway. But as it turned out, it was a beautiful day. And I think it started raining about 4 in the afternoon. So it was a perfect deal. So there it is. Every 4 minutes I took a picture.
Yeah, you can sort of see during totality a little bit of moisture in the air, but that's pretty good. Thank you, Don. Okay, so that concludes our eclipse pictures. So as mentioned earlier, the next meeting is going to be our annual members astrophotography meeting. Again, it's going to be August 1st meeting. Send me your stuff. Email is programs@mnastra.org. Please send them to me July 29th, maximum by 11 p.m. I need at least like a day or two to consolidate everything and download it and get the presentations together, make sure that everything is formatted. I know Trina Slide had it on the 31st in the evening. I can't do that. 31st in the evening. So yeah, I got work in the next day. So we'll do that. Last year we had a competition. We're not going to do that. We're going to do it different this time. Okay. This time, whoever submits a picture, we're going to put your name in the box. And then at the end of it, we're going to do a door prize. And there's going to be 3 winners. So we're not going to do voting on pictures or anything. But the door prize this time is going to be stories of astronomers and their stars, written by our esteemed club member and secretary, Dave Faulkner, and he signed them. And if you want them personalized, Dave can do that. So we'll have 3 of those. And Dave, you want to talk a little bit about the book? Get people excited?
Actually, the one I'm giving you is the mythology. It is pre-signed, but the story behind this is that my editor contacted me kind of out of the blue, and she had a proposal for a book that somebody else had done, but for some reason they weren't able to write the book, and I don't know why that would be, but I didn't ask. So she asked if I'd be interested. And so I kind of took a look at it, and I thought, oh yeah, this looks pretty good. So what I've done here is I have taken a number of stars that have some unique property to them. CFIT variable would be a good example. And then I talk about the astronomer that discovered that property, and I kind of do a little bio of them. Where they grew up, what their education was, and all that type of thing. And of course, for a lot of these, they were quite some time ago, and there weren't any professional astronomers. Almost all astronomers back then, astronomy was basically a hobby for them, and they had other jobs. So it's kind of interesting to see the different jobs that people had. One of them was, totally deaf. There's some interesting stories in there about the astronomers themselves, and then the stars that they discovered, and why their properties are of interest to us. So.
Thank you, Dave. So yeah, send me pictures. July 29th, 11 p.m. Please send them to me. And there are ones who already sent me pictures. When they were sending their eclipse stuff, they sent me Aurora stuff and other stuff. I will be adding those. You don't need to resend them again, but also you can send me more and more. And yeah, send me stuff, show up to the meeting, and let's have fun. I really enjoy the astrophotography meeting because it's my opportunity. I love astrophotography, but I don't practice it. I enjoy critiquing it. Let's put it this way. So it's like food. It's more fun when someone else cooked it and you get to enjoy it. Anyhow, so yeah, just do that. And then, yeah, we're going to have 3 books, and you submit a picture, you get your name entered. And then next is our feature presentation. It's going to be Valts. You want to come up here? Valts, I'm going to.
Headgear or
Do we need lights on?
no? Okay. Give us about just a couple minutes. It's already up. Look at this. Technology, ain't it grand?
Do this.
Okay,
Is it behind the head? Is it behind the ear or how's it go?
yeah. So this goes on.
that?
Yeah. Actually goes on.
Underneath,
Actually goes on.
like this?
Yeah. The back. There you go.
Gotcha.
There you
All right. I'm gonna get one thing going. I want to get the how do you do the laser thing? Let's see. Yeah, yeah. Where is that in PowerPoint?
Volume.
View.
I never use another presentation.
Whatever. All right, so finally I get to talk. Yeah. All right. So what I want to talk about is a project that I took on over a year ago, and I'll get into how I got into that project. But basically, what I want to do is introduce everybody to the University of Minnesota Students Practice Observatory. So how many here have seen the equipment at the University of Minnesota, the 10.5-inch on the top of the physics building? So there's a long history to that telescope, and it starts actually with this building that no longer exists on the university. So what I'm going to do is talk about the early days of astronomy at the university, the early professors, the early equipment, and basically what we are trying to do with the university and with my resources to help preserve the equipment along with the 10.5-inch telescope and a lot of the supplementary observatory equipment. So let's get into it. Not advancing. Okay. All right, so in order to understand where the Students Practice Observatory came from, you really have to understand the early timeline of the University of Minnesota. So in 1851, the University of Minnesota was founded, and you got to realize that was founded before Minnesota was even a state. So the first science departments in mathematics in 1870 was taught by Edwin Thompson. And he did teach a basic course in astronomy as an undergraduate course during that year. But astronomy really didn't come into existence significantly until 1885, when they established the Department of Physics. And basically that was started by John F. Downey, John Florin Downey. And I'll get into John's biography a little bit. And a little bit later on, Dr. Francis Leavenworth, and who was there at the early days of the university for a long time. So he was really, those two are really the pioneers of the astronomy program at the university. So in 1891, they built their first astronomical observatory, which was just a transit house. So a transit house is basically just a room with a slit in the roof. So you can look at zenith, you can look north, you can look south, and it's a telescope with one axis. All it is for timing of transits. So some event or some location of a star, or for clock keeping, timekeeping purposes, a lot of railroads and other services by the government that were really needed accurate timekeeping, and they were asking local observatories to do that. So they predicted when, like, Vega would cross the meridian. So that telescope is, since it only has one axis, they would park it right in front of Vega before it would cross. And then they would record the exact time when Vega would cross the meridian or whatever star or whatever event. And that's how they kept time and did all the math and all the conversion on proper motion of and timekeeping there. But in addition to that, that's the early work where actually positions of stars started coming in. But you can't really do a lot of star position work with just a transit telescope. So some of the other equipment in the early transit house, so the transit itself was a 3-inch Valts transit telescope, and I'll show you that. That still exists, and that is in the third floor of the Tate physics building. Yeah. There was an astronomical clock at the time, and show you a picture of that. That does not exist anymore. And then there's the Valts drum chronograph, which was basically a record-keeping device for the astronomers at the time. So those are the early pieces of equipment. But the actual first practical course in astronomy didn't happen until 1892, and that was offered by Dr. Leavenworth. So in 1895, the Minnesota legislature appropriated $10,000 for an observatory to be on campus. And so basically they took the transit house, added one little extra room, and then added a 22-foot dome. And what were they going to put in that 22-foot dome? They basically contracted with Warner and Swasey Company and to build a 10.5-inch equatorial telescope. And that is the telescope that exists in the physics building today. And along with the equatorial telescope, they also, which had lenses manufactured by Brashear. Brashear was both Warner and Swasey and Brashear were very famous telescope makers from Cleveland, Ohio. And they made a lot of pretty famous instruments worldwide, especially in the US. So basically the 10.5-inch, it's a 10.5-inch refractor. It also has a special lens. That lens can be removed, and actually you put on a photographic plate and turns it into an 8-inch wider field, faster photographic lens. So it's specially designed, and it's designed to be very interchangeable. And that photographic lens actually exists too. So that'll be part of a future university display. So which I'll get into a little bit later. So along with the telescope, we had 11 eyepieces, a Feelar micrometer, and what I actually have, the Feelar micrometer eyepiece from the university scope right here. People can come and take a look at it. I actually modeled it, and I'll talk about the restoration of that piece as well. But I have it with me here. So prism diagonal, a 3-inch finding telescope, and a clock drive. And then a little bit later, they added a 4-inch guiding telescope as well. So you know that piggyback on the 10-inch is 2 long telescopes, and those are the guiding and the finder scopes. So the total cost of that telescope, $5,165. Yeah, $191,000. All right. Where was the location of the original Students Observatory on campus? So this is a map of the University of Minnesota back in 1899. And as you can see, it's a lot smaller than it is today. But you can see that there is a small keyhole-shaped building right here, and that is the observatory. So it's close to the river, in between some buildings that are still there. So as you can see, the campus at that time was still very, very small. So where is that? Just in today's view. So this is an aerial view from 1938, and you can see the dome, and then the small additional building, and then the transit house that's there. And where is it? So this is River Road. If you know the U of M campus, Elliott Hall, Burton Hall. So Burton Hall does exist. It's this building right here. So You pass by this parking lot. That's the location of the original Students Observatory. Nothing remains of it. There's no plaque or no nothing. Yeah, yeah. So this is what the observatory looked like. So I did get access to the U of M digital archives, and I was digging as deep as I can in the digital archives. This was at the end of the end of COVID when I was doing a lot of this research, and I was not able to physically go into the U of M archives because there's lots of boxes of stuff that have not been cataloged and archived, and they didn't really want a non-historian to go rummaging through boxes for other stuff. But what I'd really like to do is find pictures of the inside of that building because I have not found one from anybody. But there are archives from Professor Downey, Professor Leavenworth, and Professor Boyton on campus. So basically, the three pieces of the building. The original part here is the transit house, and you can see the slit in the roof that goes north-south. So that opens up. In the middle is the computing / classroom. So that's where they had all the slave students do all their logarithms and compute all their transit times and do all of that stuff. And then the 22-foot dome built in 1895. So 1891 was the original transit house. Then the additions were in 1895. And it's not 100% certain, but the dome on this old building is the same dome that's on the physics building today, you know, with some modernizations and restorations. All right, opening of the observatory. It was a big deal. This was a big article in the University of Minnesota publications, the Gopher, in 1897, and basically they highlighted all of the equipment and the presentations. There was a lot of, already back then, one of the important things was public outreach for the students and for basically anybody who wants to do it. And they've got they have a history of open doors on Friday nights and even to this day. All right, let's get into a couple of the early professors. It's kind of interesting. So John Florin Downey was born in 1846 in Ohio, basically enlisted in the 11th Infantry, and he was a drummer boy in the Civil War. And he continued serving and attained the rank of Sergeant Major. He earned his BS and MS degrees also in Hillsdale College in Michigan. And then he moved on and took a position in the State College of Pennsylvania. He joined the U of M faculty as in 1880, and later, toward the end of his career at the U of M, he actually was appointed dean of the College of Science and Literature. So he kind of stepped up, and but he, in stepping up as being dean, he also stepped away from teaching astronomy, and Professor Leavenworth took over at that point in time. So then he retired in 1914. In 1915, though, he unretired and then moved to China and started a mathematics program in Nanking and later Peking University. So kind of an interesting career. All right, Francis Percival Leavenworth, born in 1858. Born in Indiana, educated public schools, had a BA degree from Indiana University. He continued his studies in Ohio, worked at various observatories. Some of his colleagues, some familiar names here in Minnesota, including Herbert Howe. Actually, he's ran the Denver Observatory. Albert Flint was associated with the University of Wisconsin-Madison and that observatory in Madison. And then Herbert Wilson, who was the chairman and the chief professor of Carleton and the Goodsell Observatory down in Northfield. So he worked at the McCormick Observatory in Charlottesville and was the director of the observatory at Haverford College in Pennsylvania. So then he came to the U of M and was professor of astronomy. And but during World War I, basically there was a need for people to do other things to support the war effort. So he actually moved to Duluth and was teaching ship navigation because he was an expert in maps and cartography and everything like that, and star charts. So he was actually teaching naval navigation out of Duluth. So he did that throughout World War I. So his focus all the time was astronomy of his position. So since the University of Minnesota Observatory, it really was a students' practice observatory. And it was set up that way from day one. It wasn't really a big research institution, although they did minor research studies and did some collaboration with more major observatories like Yerkes and bigger observatories in California. So astronomy of position, what is that? That's basically making star charts and observing stars that move, double stars, observing any kind of rotation, any kind of orbits, and that kind of thing. So double stars were his life passion. So he used the photographic lens setup on the 10.5-inch Brashear to actually measure the parallax of the asteroid Eros. And that at that time was a big worldwide campaign. There was many observatories that were collaborating in for that kind of effort. So they were using the parallax to actually measure the distance to Eros and to identify its proper orbit in the asteroid belt. So the last statement here, he was a quiet and unassuming man, loved teaching. So the anecdote that I read in an article was that upon his death, another professor of the university was on campus and he bought a newspaper, and there was a newspaper boy on campus that was always selling it. And they noticed there was this gentleman's picture was in the front page because he had just died. And the newspaper guy said, recognized him right away because Dr. Leavenworth was very open to anybody who wanted to see the observatory, wanted to go and do some observing. And so the newspaper guy said, gee, he was a good man. So that was noted. All right, so just pulled up some of the old college course catalogs from the day. And I find them kind of interesting. So the earliest catalogs, the earliest courses were practical astronomy. And basically it just teaching how to use the telescope, how to use the transit, how to use the chronograph and all of the instruments in there, and how to actually document and catalog stars. General astronomy is probably similar today, stars and planets, evolution for whatever they knew stellar evolution was, different kind of stars, colors of stars, all of that. Interesting for graduates, after you complete your general practical astronomy, there was extended courses in practical astronomy where you did a lot of photographic work, developing plates, all of that stuff, orbit work. So I'm sure the students had to take their dots and take their logs and logarithms and calculate orbits from these things. So I don't know if the professors at the university can do that today without a computer. So if Larry were here, I'd challenge him on that. So astrophysics, it'd be very interesting what the astrophysics course would be like from 1898. And then different measurements. So those are just kind of interesting things from the early astronomy. So what does the Warner and Swasey, the 10.5-inch instrument look like? So again, the 10.5-inch aperture equatorial refractor, 13 foot in length, installed in May of 1896, made by Warner and Swasey with Brashear optics. And Brashear is very famous for making a type of, these are all achromats, so they're doublets, all of these lenses. And basically Brashear is famous for making a flint forward doublet, so it's a flat surface on the outside. It's kind of a reverse way, and it's very difficult to make, but they had a very particular way to do it. The small 4-inch Brashear that I restored about 5 years ago actually has a flint forward doublet as well. So an 8-inch photographic objective lens, basically what that does for, back in the day, the color plates were sensitive to blue light. So basically what that plate does, it makes it takes that aberration away, and it kind of corrects for that blue hue in the glass photographic plates of the day. The Felar micrometer, and basically it's a micrometer that could be installed onto the eyepiece, and you can actually measure the distance, the angular separation between stars. And we can come and look at that. I'll explain that a little more. The finding scopes, and then a weight-driven clock drive. Originally, the mount had a wind-up clock drive with weights and all of that, and it would there's a governor that flew, and it actually drove the motion of the right ascension of the telescope. Later, it was replaced with an electric motor. So, as I said, today it's on the top of the John T. Tate Hall, and it's open most Fridays for public viewing. Check the schedule on the U of M site. So it was refurbished in 2005 and 2006 by John Martin and Paul Robinson. So some of the research, as I mentioned, there really wasn't a lot of research, but it was really more of a teaching tool. So what Professor John Martin did back like 20 years ago, he cataloged all of the glass plates that are at the university, and those are still in existence, and those are in the archives. So this is a scan of one of them, and basically the graph to the right says how many photographs were taken over the year from 1896 to about 1920. So you can see there's a lull in the action early, between 1905 and, for that time. But it really wasn't a lot of stuff done there. So it was really just for teaching the students at that time. What the students were able to do, they were able to measure more than 100 double stars with angular measurements, accuracy of 0.4 arc seconds. And that's really what they did. They measured a lot of transits. They learned a lot of hands-on. So one thing that Professor Downey really was stressing is, and I'll read it, it's one thing to read or hear descriptions, and quite another thing to see objects and to make calculations from times and measurements taken. The one is learning about astronomy. The other is learning astronomy, how to do astronomy. But even back in 1895, Professor Downey recognized that particular scope was not in a greatest location. I mean, it's basically staring at the heart of downtown Minneapolis. Even though it's not the same downtown it is today, it's not in a good position. It's being crowded out by buildings. It's really not a research tool, but it's a great teaching instrument. So I don't know anything about that. Not aware of any of that.
Traditionally, they're like cool that longer exposure. Better.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they do that. The star camera that we don't have a full complete star camera. So we're missing a lot of parts from the actual camera that held the glass plates. So if they did any cooling on it, I'm not sure at that time, but my guess is that they did not do it unless they were just doing observation in the wintertime. All right, so this is the actual Zenith telescope. So if you're going up to the lobby of the observatory in Tate, like Dean said, you'll probably stub your toe on it. It's just sitting there. It is in fairly poor repair, and they've talked to me about possibly restoring it, but it's missing a lot of key components. But it is an original Fouth, and I did find the original catalog page for the Fouth Transit, which is shown here. So originally it costs about $1,650. So it is a pretty fine-tuned instrument, and it was used pretty accurately. All right, but that will be restored at some point, and I'll get into that. So the other instruments on the right is the astronomical clock. So it's a E. Howard. So if you've heard of Howard Miller, that's the same company as today. It's a regulator clock. Those weights are actually filled with mercury. So basically that's a toxic clock. Unfortunately, that clock went missing. We don't know if that clock disappeared when the observatory was torn down, or whether that's in some professor's private library, or who knows where it is. No one knows where that clock is. The chronograph. So the chronograph was also made by Valts company. Valts is a company in Washington that made a lot of different scientific instruments. And so they contracted with Valts to make all of this. So this chronograph, it's basically a drum recorder. You wrap that drum with a piece of paper, and there's a slide on it, and every time there's a pulse, so the astronomical clock creates an electrical pulse. It has a switch in it and a battery behind it, so it creates a pulse every 2 seconds. And so there's a wiggle on the chart recorder. So it's basically a big chart recorder. And then the astronomer or the astronomer's assistant has a button that they push. So when they see that transit, they click that button, and then the pen wiggles, and then somebody writes a note on what happens with that on that chart. So if the star transited that time, or if a planet was transiting the moon, or whatever observation was being made, it gets recorded. So the chronograph does exist, and that was one of the first instruments that I was given to restore. So basically, the way I do restoration, I basically take every single thing apart, document everything down to every screw, what thread it is, what size it is, what material it is. I model it in 3-dimensional CAD. I figure out what's missing. And then the parts that are missing, I try to research them and either recreate them or purchase them, mine it on eBay or whatever. So the actual writing carriage was missing, but I had enough documentation from other instruments that do exist around the world that I knew how to build one. So I 3D printed a base for it, but the actual movement was made from an old telegraph sounder back from the day. So I purchased that on eBay for like $8 and bought that, and it was almost perfect. And I was able to recreate that and make it work. So I got the sounder working, the pen writer working. So since we don't have a clock, what we want to do is put this on public display. What I did is I embedded an Arduino microcontroller system in the cabinet that I made for it, and basically it simulates a 2-second pulse. And then there's a button, so somebody can play with the display and actually writes the button. So this is the finished restoration. So it's in the lower left here is the actual what it looked like. It was pretty disgusting. I didn't even want to touch it. It was like rusty and crusty. So in the middle, it's actually an animation of it running and moving. And the upper left is actually my CAD rendering. So, but it's fully functional, and it's ready for display. It's mounted on a vintage table that I found at a thrift store for $5. So this is also a weight-driven system, just like the original telescopes. So you crank it up and it actually raises a counterweight, and it runs for about an hour. And it runs actually pretty accurately. All right. The next instrument is the Repsol plate measurement analysis tool. So basically this is, if you're familiar with any kind of tool making, it's like a tool maker's microscope. So you can mount within that round plate, your astronomical plate, and there's a light behind it, and there's a series of microscopes. So the microscope in the middle, actually you look at the object and you find your object. The microscopes on the outer side you record an angle. There's a very, very fine, accurately etched scale that goes around. So you know the rotation, the theta rotation of that plate. And then the fourth microscope is actually the y-axis. So you measure the x-axis, you measure the y-axis, and you measure the theta. So you can take any plate and then you can calculate what the position is of every star. So it's basically the manual plate solving system of the turn of the century. So I challenge any astrophotographer to figure out how to use this. So this piece of apparatus was actually made by Repsold and Sohn in Hamburg, Germany. And this is an image of a completed one on display that's an identical one to the one that I restored. This one actually has all four of the micrometer heads. So the one that we have at the university here does not have the micrometer head, so it's missing that, but everything else is complete. So this is the CAD model that I created, you know, full with the wooden stand and everything, exploded view. So as you can see, the four micrometer heads are missing. What I could do is make 3D replicas, 3D printed replicas of one, but just haven't done that at this point. So cleaned up all the parts. It was also pretty gross. They added some kind of lights to the system. Clayton, yes. Yeah, so there's the lever on the left-hand side. You push the lever down, it kind of opens up that a little bit. So, and then there's a clip. You put the plate in a holder, and it mounts in there. So this piece right here actually holds the holder into that plate. So there was a bunch of wires and a bunch of lamps and stuff supplemental that was added after the fact. To me, it was just more of a distraction to the beauty of the instrument. So I basically got rid of all of the old wiring and cleaned it up. So, and on the right is shown what the finished Repsold instrument is. Yeah. They're eyepieces. They're like Filar micrometer eyepieces. They're goofy sizes. So I'll have to figure out what it looks like and just kind of fake it. All right, so this is the actual Filar micrometer of the 10.5 inch, and you can come up. I don't want to pass it around. This is a very valuable antique, but this is basically the eyepiece that you can put on the 10 inch. So it's got micrometers left and a micrometer right and a rotation micrometer, and it's got two wires basically. So you put them across a double star and you can rotate, you can measure the angular displacement of the two stars and measure the distance between those two stars. So I'll leave this up here. Please feel, again, look at it. But that's one of the pieces also that I restored. So this is not from the 10 inch. This is probably from Yerkes or from some other observatory that has a similar type of Filar micrometer head eyepiece on it. But yes. It's all brass. It's all brass and glass. Yep. So this is just kind of an animation of the CAD model being exploded. So you can see that there's 102 components in there. Each one had to be measured with micrometers and calipers and all of that stuff. And on the right is the fancy rendering, but it is completely accurate. All of my CAD models are available, and I've shared with the Antique Telescope Society. So anyone who wants to rebuild this, has one of these, has a fully measured model of it. And I've made that available to the public. So another piece that came was just kind of in the box. I just decided to do it. So the little guiding telescopes had a little sun projector. So we were talking about the eclipse. So when an eclipse happens, the small telescopes can actually project an image of the sun onto that little screen. And this actually clamps onto one of those guiding or visual scopes that are piggyback on the 10-inch. So restored that as well. All right, then another thing that I'm in the middle of restoring is this thing. It's a heliostat. So I don't know exactly who the maker is. I can't find any maker's mark on it, but I'm guessing from pictures it's a Silberman, and I don't know anything about the Silberman designs, but still working on that. But basically, it's a clock that that moves a mirror that follows the sun. So you set it up, and then an astronomer or a physicist can put their spectroscope or a spectrum, their prisms, and basically they can follow a star or follow a sun over a period of time. So it kind of just tracks it, so they don't have to move their apparatus. So they move the mirror is moved. So I have that at home ready for my restoration queue. All right. So by after 1900, the University of Minnesota's campus was growing, and it was growing a lot. And from this plan right here in 1910 was actually developed by Cass Gilbert. And as you can see, his vision of the university, it had, Northrop Auditorium and a lot of the buildings in the mall, but it had the mall extend all the way down to the river. So he had a really grand scheme of things. But as you can see, the little observatory is still there, but it's getting crowded out. It's becoming less and less useful, pretty much even for students. So the physics building was opened up in 1928, and they decided that the small observatory, its days were already done. So basically, the observatory was raised in 1940. And at that time, the 10.5-inch was then moved to the rooftop of the physics building. Pretty much all of the other equipment, including the transit and the chronograph, were just left to rot in there. And basically that's why they were in such bad shape. And eventually those instruments went to the basement of the physics building. And then back about 10 or 20 years ago, when they remodeled the physics building, there was a lot of things got misplaced and thrown out as well. So luckily they did restore the 10.5-inch, but a lot of the original equipment didn't make it. It wasn't really properly restored and displayed. So, but as I said, at the time, then it was Professor Luyten who took over for Dr. Leavenworth, and he was basically the one-man astronomer at the U of M until Roberta Humphrey's time. So he was just a one-man show for the longest time, but he loved outreach, and he just loved to have students and public come every Friday and look through the scopes on the rooftop. And the rooftop observatory was a much more suitable place for public outreach at the time. So, but again, the original observatory was raised in 1940. So, you might ask, how did I get into all this stuff? Blame this guy. So I was on a business trip. I was actually in Japan, and I received this email. And, at the time I was restoring a lot of little Japanese refractors and little small telescopes. And when I saw this, I got really, really excited. So hooked up with Ron, who was actually talking with Larry Rudnick, and then the professors at the university who actually wanted to do something to help restore this. But no one's talked about this telescope yet. What is this telescope? So it all started with the Gertner telescope. So this is a 6-inch refractor made by William Gertner out of Chicago. And how the university got it, nobody knows. Larry Rudnick doesn't know. None of the professors know. None of the old timers at Tate really have a good history of it. This was probably a donation guessing about 1950, and it was put in the basement and it was forgotten. So basically, Ron gave me the opportunity and asked me, do I want this stuff? Do I want to restore it? Do I want to do something with it? And go, yeah. So met Ron at the Tate at Tate, and we picked up this basic stuff. It was missing a lot of parts and just didn't know what to do with it. Didn't know what it was, who made it. I thought it was because there was a Warner Swasey in the building. It might be a small Warner Swasey, but no, it wasn't that. The people from the Antique Telescope Society actually helped me identify it as a Gertner. So it's a Gertner F15 refractor made somewhere between 1900 and 1920. So digging and digging, digging, this is the original catalog of the Gertner. So I've got catalog, I got parts lists, I know exactly what I need, I know exactly what's missing. So, but like I said, nobody knows how the U of M got this scope. You know, was it donated by a wealthy person, somebody who had a small observatory and just didn't know what to do with it. But the university apparently didn't know what to do with it either. So they got rid of it. They just forgot it. And this, from what I understand, it came within weeks of being thrown out for scrap metal. It's all steel and cast iron. There's no plastic in this thing. The entire telescope weighs 750 pounds. Yeah. But as we know, the telescope was not used at all by the University of Minnesota. So let's talk about the Gertner Company just a little bit. So William Gertner was born in 1864 in Saxony. He was trained in Germany as a tool maker, instrument maker. He actually worked for Repsol, the company that made the plate measurement machine. So that was a very famous equipment maker. So he really polished his trade. He was an intern and a tradesman for many, many years. He emigrated to the U.S. in 1889, worked for the U.S. Coast and Survey Office and the Smithsonian. And then Buffenberger, who is a famous instrument maker out east that makes theodolites and transits for the construction industry and geography and map making and things. So then he moved to Chicago, and since he had all these skills, people were asking him for different various levels of instruments. And he got to know people like George Hale and some of the people at Yerkes, and then he got well known. He was making spectroscopes, cameras, measurement tools, and he got into optics as well. He partnered, originally his optics he was importing from Germany from Leitz, but then he partnered with a company, O.L. Petitdidier, also on the north side of Chicago, just a couple blocks from his original factory. And so Petitdidier was making all of his lenses, after the initial first years. So basically they were partner companies and they were partners in business. So basically, so that's William Gertner. So very well-established, respected German entrepreneur out of Chicago. And his original factory is still standing today at 1201 Wrightwood in just the north side. You can go there. If you zoom in right on that corner, it's Gertner still in that converted building. So it's kind of cool. Gertner is still a company in business. Now they're somewhere in the north suburbs and still making instruments. They're not doing any astronomy stuff, but they are making ellipsometers and some other instruments like that. So, but that's a little background on Gertner. So, where are these other Gertner scopes? I hadn't heard of Gertner until I started this project. Turns out there's a 6-inch Gertner at the College of St. Benedict, St. John's, right there. That's exactly a twin brother of the scope that I have, and that unfortunately is out of service because back in 1970, the St. John's Observatory sent the lens to be coated, And then the coating company basically lost the lens, and they never found it again. So that telescope's sitting there in Collegeville with no primary lens. So there's a 9-inch. There was a 9-inch Gertner at the Darling Observatory in Duluth, which has now been decommissioned, but it is on display at the UMD Planetarium at UMD. And then Aruna Hills, if you want to visit Aruna Hills, they have a B&B and you can use their telescope. They have it set up for, you can rent that. And then Earlham College is also has a 6-inch Gertner, and that also has not been used in about 50 years. It's just in that their whole observatory is just rotting in a corner of the campus. And that's pretty much the state it's in. So those are the Gertners that I'm able to find today. All right, so the restoration. So document every part, CAD model. So here's my CAD model, you know, with my CAD Joe standing next to it for humans for scale. So I realized then this was not a small telescope. So this was quite a beast. So built my 3D CAD SolidWorks model down to every single screw, every single mechanism, every single thing. So, but there was a lot of missing parts. So I had to figure out what was missing. And then luckily, our good MAS colleague, John Marchetti, who's actually a researcher at the U of M at Tate, says, hey, I think I have the lens for this. Hey, we have more parts for this. And then we got in contact with Larry Rudnick again, and he let us dig around for more parts. And lo and behold, a whole slew of parts came up. We found boxes and boxes of parts. These were buried under the dome of the observatory at the roof. And as you can see, they're all rusty and they're all gunky. But look what else I got. Got a spectroscope, got a camera, got a box of lenses. I've got the drive. I've got the clock drive. I got all the weights. I got everything, cataloged everything. And by the end of all the cataloging and documenting, the only thing that was missing was the holder and the finder scope. Everything else worked out just fine. I was able to clean up everything. All the rust was removed. Everything was repainted. Everything was restripped. Everything was done. So here's some of the processes of that. Basically, all the paint was being stripped, all at a time. As you can see, the wheels and the drive base and the indicator, the setting circles, very nice bronze alloy. Everything else is cast iron or steel. The primary cell, it's a doublet, airspace doublet, very clean. It was the lens itself was pristine. It's not coated or anything, but it's in perfect condition. The lens cell was that fully collimatable. Got everything down, started painting, built a rotisserie. Basically, you install the tubes. It slowly turns the tubes so I can paint it, because these were not spray painted. These are hand painted. So it would paint so that none of the parts would drip. And so use that, painted all the round parts, painted all the cast iron parts. That cast iron base in itself weighed 60 pounds. So coming along, so it was also missing the counterweights, but I found barbells that worked perfect for that. Restored the barbells, restored all of the gears, got all the mechanical bits working, lubed them up. Had like the finder scope rings were missing, so based on pictures, I designed them in CAD and had a local machine shop make them for me. And basically fabricated a finder basically made from some old lenses and equipment from Lauren Nelson's estate. So there's some other things. So the clock drive weights were missing, had that fabricated by a local machine shop. but the clock drive itself cleaned up beautifully. It actually works very well, weight-driven clock drive. So final assembly, as you can see, the rust is gone. Everything works. I fixed up gears, added gears. The cast iron base was missing, so I have to make a temporary wooden base. So then the next thing is, how do I assemble this thing? This thing is huge. So I borrow a crane from a coworker, an engine hoist. Can't lift it high enough. So instead of using the engine hoist, so on the upper right, I use our catalpa tree as a crane, as a hoisting crane to lift the tube up into that because it's about 16 feet high. So, but on the left, you could see the drive is working. It cranks up. Everything. It goes like an hour and a half, and it keeps perfect synchronization. The spectroscope is missing some parts, but it does fit on there. And then all the mechanics work pretty well. And then the image here is from First Light. Chris and a few other people came to my house, and Ahmed, and we actually observed Saturn, a bunch of planets last fall, and it actually works as a beautiful planetary scope at f/15. It's great. And from this also, there was I talked to a writer for Universe Today, and so I know that there was an article written in Universe Today about my restoration on this. So that was based on some of an interview that I had with Universe Today and the restoration. So, all right, that's the Gertner scope. But what do I do with a scope that weighs 700 pounds? So that's where the MAS comes in. So we did establish a MAS Gertner committee. So I'm chairing that committee with Mark and Ahmed and Dave Faulkner, and we're trying to find a home for this telescope. We want to. This is a beautiful scope. It works great as an outreach tool, especially for planets. And we approached various museums, including the Bell. The Bell turned us down. The Bakken turned us down, unfortunately. So, and the university does not have any desire to do anything with this. So they want us to find a home for this scope. So basically, we are exploring various options. We're exploring MAS sites, but right now our primary focus is the Cedar Creek site. And what my vision is for the Cedar Creek, once they're able to do that, we'll have to probably raise some money to get this done. But build a small observatory, kind of in the style of the original Students Observatory, with a small dome around this telescope, and then a small that looks like a transit house that we could store our other equipment that's stored at the Cedar Creek scientific area, where we do public outreach events, and we've got a pretty good relationship with. So that's, and it is a U of M property, so the U of M keeps the scope whether they want it or not. Right. So that's all I got. I really want to thank again Ron for getting me into this story. John Marchetti for helping me find all the missing parts. So I really want to emphasize Christina Andrade and Dr. Nico Adams. So Christina is an undergrad at Tate, and Nico Adams just got his PhD. And so what Christina and Nico are doing, they are raising money to actually go and revamp the Tate lobby to basically turn it into a small museum, so we can actually display all of these valuable pieces of equipment. So they're soliciting donations and putting plans together along with the faculty there. So with support from Larry Rudnick, Evan Skillman, and Claudia Scarlata of the university. And then I want to thank the Gertner Committee for helping me find a home for this thing. But that's kind of what we do, and hopefully maybe in about a year from now we'll have all this stuff on display at the university, and hopefully we'll have a home for the Gertner at Cedar Creek, or somewhere else maybe, but hopefully Cedar Creek.
Yeah, we have a meeting on August 10th, but at Cedar Creek to
Yep.
kind of talk a little bit about this. So
Any questions? Dean?
So I think you mentioned it at least in passing, but so what's the state of restoring the 10.5 inch? You said something about them doing something back when before, and I wasn't.
So
sure what
John
it
Martin,
was.
who I guess was a researcher or a faculty member back in the 90s, did the primary, what he basically made it functional to the level it is today. But what I just found out from Nico Adams is that the dome failed like last week. So they have bigger problems to deal with right now. So once the lobby setup is done, then I think we're going to concentrate back again on the 10.5 inch and trying to get the inside of the dome a little more polished up. Try to maybe get one of the clocks or do some of the other things that we used to do and to make it look more authentic to its what it is.
Right. So I guess the other question I had is that either I've always assumed or somebody told me that when they remodeled essentially the entire physics building, like 10 years ago or whatever
Yeah.
it was, that the only room they didn't touch was the observatory.
Pretty much.
So that just sat there being carefully mothballed until everything else
Right.
was done, yeah.
John was telling me stories that he took it off the mount and wrapped it in towels and in tarps, and they just kept it from dust. But it does need work. It needs a lot of work.
Yeah, it would be great to see that spiffed up because, like, especially if you contrast that with going to Good Cell and looking through what they've got.
Oh yeah.
It's
Good
really
fellow.
sad to think that it should look like that. And
Right.
yeah,
So these are all steps. These are all baby steps to get us going there. But I think it's finally happening.
I was wondering, did you have the list price for the 6-inch back the Gertner?
Oh, it was like $1,300 or something like that. Yeah.
Wasn't there, thank you, by the way, this is a fascinating report. Wasn't there a Dr. Kaufmanis or Kakanis or something back in the
Kaufmanis.
60s? He was famous for his lectures. I remember I went to the U of M. I remember
Yep.
going to one lecture that got me interested a lot more in astronomy.
So actually, Dr. Kaufmanis is a Latvian, and I'm a Latvian as well. So I've got a personal story with that. My family has a personal history with the Kaufmanis family as well. So I thought maybe the Gertner was related to him somehow early on, but it does. I can't put those two together. But yeah.
he was famous for his death.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
lecture series they do an annual lecture every year. It's called the Kaufman Lecture Series.
Yep. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Valts. So before we end the meeting, I want to clarify something. The August pictures, last year we had voting. We're not going to have voting this year. I hope I was clear on that. We're not voting on any pictures this year. But those who submit pictures, I'll put their name in a box and then we'll have a door prize in the end. We'll pull out 3 names and the 3 names are going to win books. That's it. We're not going to vote on the best or the worst picture or anything. Because I got some text messages and I want to make sure everybody is clear on that. There won't be any voting. Okay, everybody good? Send me your pictures, programs@mnaster.org, July 29th, and see you in the August meeting. And